What's going on, everybody? It's Big T with GreenWallSt.com, back with another trading video. This is Thursday, October 20th. You're probably watching this on Friday, but markets started in the green this morning and ended up now at 145, well off the highs and going back red for the day, but still holding the lows from late last week. So that's a small positive to think about as we kind of move through earnings season in the market. Netflix ended up beating earnings. Actually had a handful of companies report pretty strong earnings, so that's helping to keep the market up at least momentarily until we see what the rest of the market is going to report. So in the meantime, still just kind of taking it slow day by day and grinding out trades. This is a trade I took earlier this week on LMAO. I said if I got squeezed and lost on LMAO, I was probably just gonna give up. But let's take a look at this trade and show you how I managed it. The chart on the right is LMAO. Pretty much managed it the same as every other trade. Like I said, there's still a lot of opportunities out there. I say a lot, not nearly as many as the years past, but in this market, you kind of just have to take what you can get and continue to grind out wins when they're there, and really try not to force subpar trades. There's not a lot of like super A+ trades out there in the market, but if you go out and you keep using the same size and risking the same amount of money on subpar setups, that's where you take a step backwards instead of just ignoring all of the subpar setups, waiting for kind of your edge to appear in the market and then taking advantage of it. So LMAO gapped up, from 9 to 14 in the pre-market, sold off from 14 back to 9. So as we bounced back into some of that pre-market resistance, I wanted to get short the stock. And this is one where, the range is crazy. A stock going from, 9 to 14 back to 9 and then bouncing back to 13 is like, that's some serious intraday volatility. But as a day trader, that's where I want to be. But you have to keep in mind that you have to use the correct amount of size given the range. So whereas like a $2 stock, I might be personally trading anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 shares on a stock that's moving $2 a share in one candle. You can't use that much unless you want to take a lot more risk. So just something to keep in mind. But LMAO, here we go. The stock is halted at the moment, which is a little bit scary. The stock halts up and you can actually see the in yellow over here. This is the indication for the stock. So this is indicating where the stock is going to open once it's unhalted. So it halted at $11.13. The indication is all the way at $12.50, which is much higher. So there's going to be a gap there from where it closed and where it opens. And because it's gapping right up into that resistance from pre-market, I'm assuming that it's not just going to rip right through it, right? Because it's already starting to overextend. We're going to have $1.50 worth of gap and it's coming right into resistance. So my bet on this trade is that the resistance is going to hold. And you'll see that as we start to pop into it, that is where I place a short. And you got to be comfortable. You can see it going from 1260 to 1180 all the way back to 1260. It's very volatile. So again, like the sizing, you have to be comfortable with this stock. If you're short at 1260, you have to understand that if you're right, the stock's going back in the 10s, right? It's going to flush back underneath VWAP. So you have to be comfortable with it going to 14 if you're wrong. So you can't enter at 1260 and have a stop at 1265 or 1270 because you're going to get spooked out very, very easily. So I start in again with a number that I personally am comfortable with, and then once I see that the stock is actually running into that resistance and it's starting to pause and it can't quite get through for at least a minute or two, I start to slowly add more to my position. So I add there and it gives me about a 1230 average, mid 1230s. And at this point, I've got all that I want in the trade. I don't like scale in and add to winners all that much. I typically wait for, the stock and the setup to get where I want it to get. And then I'm in the trade. I've noticed, just for me personally, if I try to scale in too much and I add to a winner, all I end up doing is ruining my average. And then when the stock bounces back, I end up getting spooked out of it and or stopped out of it. And you can turn winners into losers very easily that way. So I am much more, let me be really patient for the stock to get where I want it to get, and then I'm in. So only 2 entries for me on this trade. And then at this point, it's just a matter of patience, right? So stock has already fell almost $2 a share here. But again, I am looking for, a slightly bigger move. So I'm not, I'm not anxious to cover. Even if it comes back on me here, I'm okay with that because it hasn't really reached its full potential. Now, here's the stock trying to bounce back. This is like, taking its last breath. It's trying to come up for air and is trying to breathe. And this is the moment where I want to see it reject. Because if it's going to stay heavy and it's going to, if the stock's going to fall, it's going to fall, right? And this is the moment where if it's going to fall, it should do that. And I think recognizing those moments is really important. So you can see it trying to carve out a low. It's trying to, reverse back upwards. And this is the real test moment. And you'll see what happens here shortly. I don't think it took very long, but maybe it did. The spread on the stock is still crazy. It's like, bouncing between 10 cents and 30 cents a share, the bid and the ask. So, just trying to stay patient with it, trying not to get spooked out. Stock looks like it's starting to struggle. The bid is all the way down to 1101. And once they end up wiping out everybody bidding at 11, the stock finally tanks. And we get all the way down to about 1030, which is $2 a share from my entry. And that's the point where I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm happy with that. But of course, the bid and ask was very thin at this point. So I was waiting for the ask to step down a little bit on the right. So it was sitting at 1070. I was waiting for it to come down to, 1050, 1040 so I could get filled on the offer. I probably could have had some actual orders in on the bid too to cover. But to be honest, I wasn't expecting it to flush quite that hard. So I got caught off guard a little bit. And then I covered the rest of the position there. So nearly $2 a share on LMAO. And that was my only trade of the day. This was a trade from yesterday, so Wednesday afternoon. But these are the types of setups that, they're not coming around as much, but they are still there. And if you're patient enough for them, and once they come, you risk an amount that you're comfortable with, you can still make some pretty decent money trading intraday in the market right now. So that is pretty much the goal. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. GreenWallSt.com. Check out link in the description below if you'd like to trade live with me every day. And if not, and you just want to watch the videos, that is fine too. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will catch you right back here next time. Peace out, everybody.